Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. Thanks for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, 7 minutes past 8 a.m. And we're talking about your money, a heated topic, especially with the current economic situation in the country. And schools have just reopened, and we've seen the Form 1s head back to school just last week. And the press was awash with reports of parents struggling with the back-to-back terms of financing the education of their loved ones, their young ones. And education is important, not just education, but quality education. So how do you secure the future of your young one with quality education, bearing in mind the current economic challenges we live in? So a plan might be important, planning into the future as early as now. So allow me to bring into the conversation a familiar face, Waithaka Katumia. It's great to see you, CEO of Centonomy. I know this money matters are your forte, so let's get right into it. What exactly is an education insurance for someone who's never heard of it? What should they understand by this?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Jesse, for having me. And yeah, you're right. It's not that we might or that we could need to have it. I think we all need to have a plan. I love that you said you used the word plan. We need to have a plan around our finances. And one thing that the education policies do for you is that they kind of help you with that plan that you're going for. So at the most basic level, essentially what you're doing when you take out an education insurance policy is, well, two levels. Number one is you're trying to say, should I be unable to pay for my children's education? Either I'm being incapacitated, can't work, or I'm dead and I've gone. How are my children going to go to school? So an insurance policy, just like any other insurance policy, essentially is planning for that, for an occurrence where you don't have control. And so should you not be there, should you not be able to pay at that time in terms of that you're unable to have the ability to do so, the insurance policy should pay out. The other side of it, and that's what these new products that are in the market do, is that they actually give a timeline and a payout over that period of time, which is really, really important. What they're trying to say is your child is going to hit, for instance, age 18 and want to go to university. So if your child is age 18 and wanting to go to university, you will need cash at that point in order to get to that school. And so these insurance policies say that if you are able to raise and put in these premiums for the next however many years it is before you hit age 18, then at that point they will pay out an amount that will assist you to take your children to university. That's the most basic level that it is.
Okay, so they highlight the timeline and the payout. So I think the next logical question would be, as a parent, should they specifically look into education insurance, or could general insurance be a fallback plan, or even non-insurance savings? Do they offer similar benefits as compared to the education insurance?
Well, that's a very complex question which you've asked, Jesse, but I will do my best to answer it. Here's the thing. As I said, when you take out an insurance policy like this, it's doing two things. Number one, it's giving you a sense of protection. Just like any other insurance policy, what you're trying to do is say that should something go wrong in this period of time, as I'm raising these funds, as I'm putting in the premiums, then I've covered myself. That's one of them. And then the other one is actually a payout. So it is essentially like a savings plan, because what you're doing is you're saying, as I'm putting that protection, and I'm also saving towards the education that's there at that point. Now, it's interesting that you said, is it similar to others? Yes. So for instance, if you know the amount that you're working towards, and that's what we need to talk about, Jesse, today, because when you have a plan, that means that you have a goal. So I'll come to that shortly. But in response to your question, you were saying, if I have, for instance, a life policy, that should I pass away over a period of time, my family, my next of kin will receive some cash. It's similar to that. It's an insurance. And as I'm doing that insurance, I have to be saving elsewhere for the education, because should I still be there, the insurance will not pay out. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can save or invest elsewhere for the education that we're talking about. So all you have done is taken what the policy does and applied it to yourself in your own context.
Okay. I think you've definitely simplified that for us. Thanks for that. So when do the funds mature at the end of the day? Or is it all to do with the parent and the type of package you decide?
Yeah, so it varies obviously with various policies, and please, let me speak to all Kenyans in this couple of minutes that I have. We struggle with asking questions. And I said we because I'm a Kenyan just like you. We don't ask all the questions that we need at the point at which we are taking on board that policy. So let me tell you this, and any parent who's listening, before you sign on the dotted line, please confirm all your questions. By the way, that insurance broker who's trying to sell you the insurance, their job is to explain this to you. Their job is actually to tell you what this policy does, what it doesn't do, what your rights are, what they don't. So when you're taking a policy, Jesse, please, all parents, ask the question which you're saying, when will it mature? When do I have rights to the amounts that are in there? When can I collect? Who can collect? What are the terms and conditions of each one of these policies so that you can understand where it's going? But Jesse, the next part that I want us to go to,
okay,
because as you go to different insurance agencies and policies and plans, they'll have different terms and conditions. But what, Jesse, is the ultimate goal of what you are trying to achieve? And that is the question that most of us have not answered. Jesse, your goal is to ensure that your children go to university. Now, the problem is, Jesse, for many of us parents, we don't know which university. We kind of have an idea of when because of their age and the timeline that is going to be there. But you have not planned specifically, and that is the issue. Do you mind, Jesse, if I explain a little bit more on that?
Go ahead.
Very good. Here we go. So, do you understand, parents, as you're listening to me, that not all universities are the same, for instance, okay? Mm-hmm. Not all of them are the same. And so, if you are planning and you would like your child to go to a private university, let's say, it's not the same as the local university that's around in your county. Uh-huh. If you'd like your child to go to an international university, the cost is not the same. So the first place that you must go, and we do this in the Centonomy classes because it's all about setting goals. When you set a goal, it means I know when and how much it is going to cost. Mm-hmm. So for instance, you have to set the goal. And I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to put this on you, but it is for you to say, I want my child to go to such and such university. I want them to go to Daystar or to Strathmore or to the University of Nairobi or to Harvard, whichever one it is. Make that choice, first of all, because now you have set the goal. By setting that goal, now you know today how much that university costs. Then you work backwards and say, watch this. I know my child today is 5, my child is 7. So how many years between now and when they go to university? You'll calculate and say it's 10 years, 15 years, however long it is. Please, parents, Jesse, I hope they're listening to me. Understand that university will not cost the same in 10 years as it does today. True. So if the university is costing for a 4-year degree 2 million shillings, for instance, as an example, today, it will not cost 2 million shillings 10 years or 15 years from now when your child goes to university. Jesse, there's a thing called inflation. Aren't we experiencing it now?
Yes, we are.
So the price of education is going to go up over that period of time. So you need to sit down with your broker and you need to calculate how much will Strathmore or Daystar or UON or Harvard or Oxford, whichever one you want them to go to, will cost in the next 10, 15 years when your child is ready to go. Once you have calculated that amount, you work backwards and say, what is the premium that I'm going to pay in order for us to have enough money when they go there. Because, for instance, if I'm just giving rough numbers, if the education is worth 2 million today, in 10 years it's worth maybe 5 million. If I put in a policy that will pay out 2 million in 10 years, when I arrive there, I'll find myself wondering, oh, I have 2 million, this thing is worth 5 million. Where am I going to get the extra 3 million? Do you see the issue? So I need to set up my plan today for my life in future. And that is the key part. Don't just sign on the dotted line because they told you to sign. Plan. Say, I want this university in this number of years. How much will it cost? What do I need to do? And then you can have a real conversation, Jesse, with that broker as you're putting down your policy, if you decide to go with that policy.
Okay, so coming from an informed position is quite important. As they say, failing to plan is planning to fail. So those are some of the main factors that parents need to understand when going into this. I think another question would be, since you brought in the inflation aspect, the flexibility of these plans, should they also look at them? Because as much as inflation changes over time, the income might also increase. So is the parent liable to perhaps increase the premium since they have more funds coming in as they aim for that 4 million course in such and such years? Well, what's your take on that?
Oh, look, Jesse, and I think that would have been great if you had a couple of these companies to come in and to explain their policies in detail to you. Yes, I would agree with you in terms of trying to say, hey, if my situation changes, again, these are the kind of questions, Jesse, I love that you ask. Please, parents, if you're sitting down at home, write down the questions Jesse's asking and ask your policy provider the same. What if my situation changes? What is going to happen? How can I increase if I find that position? Or, you know, in tough times like what we've been through, will I get hit by a huge fine along the way if I'm unable to pay for a period of time? Jesse, it goes both ways. I love that you've gone the positive way and said, you know what, if things get better, I'm able to pay more. Wonderful. But what also if things get worse? What happens to all the cash that I've been putting in up until that point? So these are the kind of questions that I'm saying that every parent, before you sign on the dotted line, ask. Please, I know there are these documents, Jesse, I know about them. They have what is called fine print. All those lines at the end, which you barely can read, you need glasses to read when you're looking at them. Read them and then come back. Don't be in a rush to sign. Imagine that plan is over 10 years, is over 15 years. A few days to even look and read, understand, get a different quote may make a difference. So yes, I think, Jesse, if your situation changes, you should have the ability to do so. But it is dependent, Jesse, on the terms and conditions that you agreed to at the beginning of that policy. So it's important.